Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park, and thank you for joining us here on another edition of Gulfstream Today. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Andy Serling, and while the entries are out for Saturday, and you and I were both taking a look at the card, a very, very fun, difficult card coming up on Saturday. Big day for the 3-year-olds.
I agree. It's a sensational card, and obviously, we work here and we're promoting what's going on, but it really is. There's so many races, and you and I have already talked about how many races that we had trouble coming up with picks in, and there's just so many alternatives. And those are the kind of races that you love as a horse player because you got 13 races, and you were saying to me, I don't get shut out and embarrass myself, and we often feel that way. If you're smart in one or two places, you're going to have a good day. It's going to be a great day of racing.
Exactly, and a great day of racing here today as well. I have a couple of opinions, and hopefully they pan out well, but one never knows.
You're in a tough position. I think you and I agree in the first 4 races, and you're going to have you've been picking so well lately. It's going to increase the burden on you.
Well,
you've got to keep it up. If you do poorly, nobody expects you to pick any winners. But when you're picking all these big price winners like you are.
When you do well, it can only go downhill, right?
Right.
Isn't that what they say?
Right.
We'll take a look at some of our featured racers and our carryovers today. We do have a nice carryover there in the rolling super high 5 for that 7-horse field to start us off here. So I would expect the pools to get pretty high on that bet. They usually really pound that bet, actually getting close to post. So over $6,000 in that carryover for the rolling super high 5. Race 1 also kicks off the 50-cent early pick 5, and as we get on to race 6, the 20-cent rainbow pick 6, we do have a carryover, $1.7 million and growing. And in the race 7, 50-cent late pick 5 as well. It was a tough sequence yesterday, an interesting sequence, and we did have 3 live singles going into the final leg. And I think whoever the ticket holder was on the number 3 horse was getting a little excited there because finishing at third.
That horse looked like, I had bet a few dollars on that horse, and I thought top of the stretch, horse had a chance to win. And Dennis, our cameraman, put in a $4.80 ticket and had 5. And
That's impressive.
He said to me the only horse I didn't use was a horse that I had liked a little bit and used was Gabby Brown. He said, I should have gotten together with you. I said, if you listened to me, I would have thrown out at least 3 of the horses that you liked that won. So he did pretty well on his own.
I think Dennis might replace us here sometime soon because he's doing well. We'll take a look, though, at the first race on the card, and I believe you came up with an early pick 5 ticket, so let's take a look at it and walk us through it.
Yeah, and I'm definitely planning on playing this ticket, using the 3 and 4 in the first race, and we're talking through some familiar territory. The second race, I'm only using 2, and obviously a lot of horses can win there, but I'm willing to take a little bit of a stand in that race, and we'll get to that in a moment. The 2 logicals in the third leg, 3 horses spreading out in the fourth, and you and I were talking about a stat in that race. The last race is a tricky race. I'm using 3 there. I feel like that's one, if you narrow down earlier and you can use a lot of horses, that might be the one that gets a little bit tricky again.
Okay, well, we started all off, and I thought a key scratch with the 8, Good Boy Charlie to the outside, a horse that I kind of liked in here, and I thought put in a really good race last time out, but we'll have to wait for another day. And you would think that the 3 Bold Summit and the 4 Scam are probably going to take the majority of the money.
And they're supposed to, and I don't think you need either one of us to explain why. Bold Summit, you've got a horse in good form for Jorge Navarro, and I just couldn't get the 6 last time out. George Navarro's horses have just been running sensationally, but Scam's a horse that's dropping considerably and was on a dead rail last time, and that was when we first started to get clued in on that period of time. We had about 3-4 days when we had a dead rail in January, and this was the first time, and this was one of the horses I think that sort of indicated it.
Well, this is also a horse, and you're probably not going to like the stat, but I'll throw it up anyway. John Service over the past 5 years with Dirt Sprinter, second after the layoff. They do very well. I know they're just about average there with the ROI in terms of that, but the reason why I thought that this was important was because this is a trainer who goes from about 11% first off the layoff with these dirt sprinters to about 26, even finishing in the money significantly second off the layoff, because sometimes if they don't fire, he drops them in, he well places them, or they just improve second off the layoff. So he's just a very sharp trainer with these types of horses.
He's a very sharp trainer in general. Here's my question for you. I didn't put this stat up, and because I didn't think, with the 8 in here, I thought he might be a better price. I didn't want to knock him at a better price. On a 50% drop, he's 3 for 24 overall with a 61-cent ROI. So these are the things with stats they ask. Which do you think is more important, second off a layoff or the fact that he's dropping so precipitously off of that race, a race he didn't really run that badly in?
It is true. Well, the 3 Bold Summit, this is another one who very well could use speed to his advantage. And this is a horse who, even though he broke from the way outside post position in the past couple of starts, Miguel Jaramillo just got this horse into perfect position. The only thing with him last time out, how would you say that the track was playing? Because he was a horse who was really down on the inside rail, whereas a couple of the winner actually won from about the 3-4 path.
There's a question about the 6th and 7th of how the rail was those days, and it's a period of time that led to the rail not being good. And it's been a little difficult to read at times, and we've talked about this even yesterday. Like, I feel as though the rail has been okay the last few days here in that period, but I still feel like you're better off outside of it, and it feels like some of the riders feel that way as well. But it's hard for them because the riders got in a period where the rail was bad and they didn't want to go to the rail, and rightfully so, and I don't blame them. If I was a rider, I'd be skeptical about going back down there, and if it's working out on the outside, why do that?
That's a good question there. That's race 1 on the card. We'll move on to the second maiden $75,000 event. A mile and a 16th on the turf.
Half 16. What's 7/16 among friends?
We have a couple of scratches in here, but I thought kind of an interesting race. The 3 Scats Empire intrigued me the most because they tried to get this filly on the turf in debut, and all considering when she debuted, it was on a sloppy track, really kind of a cuppy track as well. She ran pretty well, in my opinion. Now, the big question is why drop her in class after an okay performance on maybe an unpreferred surface in debut?
Probably being realistic. The maiden special weights on the turf here are so tough. And I think one of the reasons guys like Ralph Nix do well is that they're realistic. And 75, I'll tell you what, this is on a 75 scale, it's a very easy 75 because there's nobody here that's run particularly well. And the gap, and you look at like a Saturday race, there's so many tough outfits to go, and Ralph's kind of win. If somebody wants to claim this horse for 75, so be it. I agree. This horse is the Dam's a half to 3 turf winners, including 49er Son, who won over $600,000. The first foal from her. He tried to get in the turf. I just think there are a lot of things alike. Took a lot of money in that race, too.
Did take a lot of money. Of course, you get the Scat Daddy breeding as well. I just think that this is going to be a much more preferred surface and can only move forward getting to the turf for the first time. The One Voice is only. We had a similar scenario yesterday in yesterday's finale where a Bill Mott horse, who actually was the #1 horse, took a lot of money dropping from restricted maiden special weight company. I'm interested to see how they bet this horse, and I do think this is one you have to respect in some of the multi-race sequences.
Well, the other difference between this horse and the Mott horse yesterday, the Mott horse is the kind of horse that's almost supposed to have won, and it ran horrendously because it ran so badly in its first race. There was no reason to take any money and got pounded, ended up 2-1, was even money when we were talking about the race. But Voices Only, the first race that Voices Only ran was a good race. I think if Voices Only runs back to that debut, I think she's going to be very tough.
And now what happened last time out, perhaps it was a little bit of give in the going, but she really did no running, in my opinion, with the blinkers on.
Listen, either it was the give in the ground or, she ran okay in her first start and horrendously second time out, and maybe it's a combination of both. That was a tough race last time, but she was awful.
And we have the 6, Noble Beauty, a first-time starter for the maiden claiming level here for Chad Brown. She's by Kitten's Joy. She's out of a bottom side where the only other foal was actually 0 for 8 on the bottom there. But there's a little bit of pedigree on the bottom side in terms of the second dam. The second dam was a decent runner on the dirt. Chad Brown, though, we've talked about this so many times, just first-time starters, maiden claiming debut on the turf here, just they have not been showing up.
If you had made a commitment with Chad to throw out every one of his first-time starters on the turf this meet, you'd have done very, very well betting against those horses. And, I look at his record and I see he's 15 for 63. If you had asked me how Chad was doing, I wouldn't have thought he had won as many races or run more horses. If you threw out every first-time star he's had on the turf, he might be about 15 for 45 in here because he's run he probably hasn't run that many, but I bet he's run a good 8 or 10 first-time starters and none of them have won.
But in particular, maiden claimers, too. They really just haven't been showing up. We saw one yesterday as well. So something to definitely take note of. We'll move on to the third race, the 6,259 winners of 3 lifetime conditions, 6 furlongs on the main track. And we'll take a look at the 7, Dancing My Way, and kind of talk about her last performance there on the 7th of February.
Just thought she ran fine in this race. And, I joke around the show we do in New York, we call talking horses. And today, when we all agree, we call it agreeing horses. Allison, you and I are in the midst of an agreeing horses segment here because we just picked 2 straight races, and you and I very, very rarely talk about races before we're done handicapping.
Definitely not today.
No, I mean, I don't think you and I had a single conversation about this card at any point, and we've landed the same ways. But in this particular case, dancing my way, drifting down towards the inside. It's just, where do you go in here if you don't take the 7 or 3?
Yeah, it's obvious. If you don't like the 3, Gata Dorado, who's 2 for 20, who has been competing against similar company at 7 to 5 on the morning line, you go for an alternative option. And I thought that the 7, Dancing My Way, even though she got a perfect trip last time out, she was beaten by an okay horse in Samus, but she's just the other horse that you want to look for to try to beat the 3, Gata Dorado. I didn't really like the 6, Rock All Day, because I thought was very easy, getting a gate to wire lead last time out. I think there might be faster horses here today. So by default, yeah, I land on the 7.
I'm completely with you on this race. We may end up being wrong, but nothing else I can say here.
Okay, race 4, maiden 16,000 a mile on the turf course here. And an interesting race. So we've taken a look at, I could have gone in multiple different directions here, but the 1, Glotona, again, is a horse that we at least a little bit agree on here.
Well, the point for me in this race, at least, I think the 1, 2, 6, and 5 are the 4 horses that you logically might look at, particularly the 2, 5, and 6. Neither one of us wants to pick the 2, Hanover Honey, on top. Obviously, she can win, but you're talking about a horse that had a no-excuse loss at 8 to 5, a no-excuse loss at 2 to 1, and she might win here. But when they start piling up the losses at short prices, you start looking for alternatives. And for me, Glotana, again, she's never been on the turf. She's a first fall from a dam that won 1 of 11 starts in the turf, is a half to 2 other turf winners, so there's 3 turf winners in the 2nd generation, supposed to be the inside speed. And while this rider's numbers haven't been good, with riders' low percentage, if they can just get him to lead, you sort of hope the horse can get them from there. And I'll take my chances this horse can wire the field. Good all or nothing play for me.
And for what it's worth, we saw the winner, Ela, come out of that race, I believe, first off the claim for Jamie Ness, and she completely wired the field when she got back to the turf course. So that was a very, very strong race by Ela.
Might have been one of the biggest gaps in a 5-furlong turf race in the history of horse racing.
What was the final?
Lengths.
10.5 lengths of the final margin of that race, yeah.
You beat a field by 2 seconds in a race that goes in under a minute. That's really
remarkable.
That's really incredible.
That's really incredible. The 6, Written in the Stars, is one that I question. Perhaps she doesn't really. I questioned her running style last time out. They went pretty strong fraction. She went out to the lead, and she just seemed to falter. And I questioned, now stretching out to the mile, will they kind of take her back off the pace? I thought that was a very fast race, all considering how slow she used to be.
No, I think those are very, very good points. I mean, she has like almost a classic prep off a layoff race when they show a lot of speed, and they usually finish 8th.
Yep.
She stopped in the stretch. I don't like the field she was in against. You know, I feel like with Written in the Stars, one of the reasons you picked her on top and I put her 3rd is that you're in Maryland all year and I'm in New York, and I have a history with Written in the Stars, and as you can see, it's not a good one. We have not had a great relationship, she and I.
She ran in Laurel once, but I wasn't there.
Yeah, so. I mostly expected good things from her, and she just wasn't really up to the task. It was one of my many bad picks in Saratoga, though she did have kind of a trip in one of her races. She can win, and I agree. She ran okay last time.
Okay, race 5 on the card, a $30,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime on the turf at a mile, the final leg of the early pick 5. And we'll take a look at this race. The 5, Biamonte, I thought was interesting. We'll get to her in a second. But if you look at least the morning line, the 2, Like a Queen, she definitely one that figures on a slight drop in class.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. When I was going back over my picks, and you look at them a 3rd or 4th time, I was arguing with myself, should I really be picking her? Because she's 1 for 22. She's lost a number of races at shorter prices. I really like the rider switch to John Velasquez. I think, you know, Zayas and Gaffalione and Jeremy are all good riders. I don't think it's a case where he's taking over from a bad rider. But one of the things I really love about John Velasquez is when you get him on a horse that might have the speed to get in position, but has been allowed to drift a little farther out of races. I feel like Johnny's a rider that one of his real strengths, especially in his turf routes, is getting horse into a position where they can win the races. And she's not a speed, but I'm hoping she can get in behind and draft behind the speeds, and it might work out in a trip dropping down. But she's a little bit dicey.
She has been capable of being closer to the pace, and I agree with you. I think that they really haven't been aggressive with her and getting her into an early position. But now with that inside post, cutting back to the mile, they have to be a little bit more aggressive today. She's one that definitely figures. The 5 Piemonte I was interested in. She has been facing Silmar Company in the past several starts. I thought the field that she faced 2 back was very tough for the level, as we saw Spring Spirit come back, step up in class, and get the victory. She's another one who I thought was caught in kind of a tricky position last time out, chasing. I always use these horses who chase last time out and hopefully get a little bit more pace to run behind and settle behind some of the stalkers today.
Yeah, they're reasonable arguments. I picked her 4th in here and can absolutely see the case for her. And Mobilize is a question in here. What do you do with her? She was disappointed in New York, but she gets a firmer course down here. Maybe that'll be her liking. But I don't like the trainer change. I think this guy does a good job with the horses when he gets a chance, Fernando Abreu. So I think it's a chance. The 3 Redneck Song might be a speed type. All these horses can win. I'm just not thrilled with any of them.
This is a tricky race,
Yeah,
I will say.
is.
I would not want to. I would not want to use it in the early pick 5. It is very tricky. Really, I thought several horses could win it if nobody really reverts to their back form.
Right. If I really wanted to spread in here and up my ticket from 36 to 60, I would add both your 1 and 5 because I think they're both horses that can win the race.
All right. Well, that's races 1 through 5. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at the Rainbow Pick 6 $1.7 million carryover right after this commercial break. Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Now taking a look at the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 starts in race 6 today, and a $1.7 million carryover as well. I did construct a ticket here, $57.60, so we'll walk through the sequence using 4 horses to start us off here in the first leg. I really like the 7, Livin' for Love, so I'm keen off of this filly. Yes, she's not the favorite. She's actually a decent price, but I really do like her out of the trip last time out, using several horses in race 7, race 8, and 4, 8, 10.
Let me just say something. That ticket is supposed to be races 6 through 11. I don't want anybody to get confused.
Oh, right.
It asks races 5 through 10. So sorry to interrupt, but those are races 6 through 11 on that ticket.
Good call on that. But
I just don't want somebody to see it and think Gabby likes, get it out of sequence and screw it up. That's all. Because I'm looking through. Anyway, we'll get to the races.
We'll get to the races. And
sorry, guys.
I thought it was a very, very tough sequence. And the final leg of the sequence, I just used 2 horses, the 6 and the 11 Air Squadron, just in terms of pace in that race. So
who'd you use, 6 and 11?
6 and 11 in that final race. So we'll get through
That's a hard race.
It is a tough race, but I do really like the 7 in race 7. So we'll get to it in a second. Race 6 kicks us off, though. I had a bit of a tough time in here because can you really trust the 8 Master Blender? I really liked this horse last time out. We'll go back and take a look at this replay. Running Cat comes out of it. Master Blender comes out of it. Was this a race that perhaps last time was the time,
yes,
to use your words?
You really want to watch Master Blender, and this was a great pick by you. And I remember watching the race and watching her in the turn, and another one of your good picks that I didn't particularly like, and I'm watching, I'm like, Gabby had a great idea. This horse is going to win because Paco's loaded here. But, geez, Gabby, this horse, I mean, you don't want to be too hard on Paco, but
this was brutal.
Didn't work out. He was a little unlucky. A lot of it was unlucky, though, to be fair.
A lot of it was unlucky, yes. He's just clearly looking for room. And then finally, when he gets drifted out here, he starts to really pick up his feet. And he... even here, too, he has to... I thought that was the defining factor why he lost this race, is because it wasn't the early trouble in the stretch. It was the second check move that he had to make. And I just, but was that the last time was the time?
Yeah, and it was a wet track as well. So, one of the reasons that you like this horse, even though he's run well on dry tracks, is that, the wet track might move him up, and he is. But he's also well posted. He can win this race. Listen, I agree with you. I don't really like Running Cat in here, though obviously he can win. I might have taken a shot if this race was in the pick 5 and singled Thundergram, because I like Thundergram, and I don't mind taking a little bit of a shot or looking at this as like maybe I'll construct around Thundergram and give myself a good shot to hit it if this horse wins. Thundergram last time out is going to look really bad off that race, but first of all, was running against killers. Securitas won that nice race yesterday, and he's a solid horse. Scorch, who we've talked about, can't wait for him to show up somewhere. I hope he just doesn't go to synthetics, because the way he ran in that race, he might. I know it's a wet track. This horse was buried on a dead rail, so you got a horse that's coming off of a 3-month layoff, and he's down in a dead rail against horses that are better than him on a wet track, and now he cuts back and drops down. I really like him in this spot.
I love the cutback that you're getting on him, too. I probably should have moved him up, and this is a horse I probably would have picked over Master Blender, but after that ride that he got last time out, I'll stick with him one last time. But I do say, with full disclosure, perhaps last time was the time with that type of horse. So we pretty much agree there. I used the 7 rough passage just as a little bit of a price last time out. Was on a really sloppy track, the first time on a sloppy track, but if he's a horse that can get to his back form, I thought he could be competitive, too.
Could not agree more.
All right, race 7 on the card, maiden $35,000 event, a mile on the turf. This kicks off the late pick 5, races 7 through 11.
And you're singling Living for Love here,
yes.
Right? Okay, I'm going to use 2, 5, 7 in here. The 2 check your 6 is the speed here and could be dangerous. And I'll go 3 by 2 by 2 by 3 by 3. And I agree that last race is tough. I didn't use the 11. I thought the horse the last race had a perfect trip last time. Clearly could win if you want to expand your tickets. This is where I'm going in here. Living for Love, that's a tough single.
I know. I know.
Are you concerned this horse could be a real victim of pace?
It could be, but you remember, I think we showed...
Oh, I remember this horse well.
Yeah, you and I showed this replay, I believe, when she ran before she ran last time.
We're not showing it today, her debut.
No, her debut,
yeah.
Her debut. Before she ran last time.
She should have won. She was buried in the stretch.
She should have won.
Right.
She was buried. She had a tremendous amount of excuse, and I liked her a little bit coming off the layoff. I was questioning the drop in class, why they give her the time, bring her back for the maiden $35,000 race, but you have to completely discard her last race because she pretty much almost fell on her face.
She was completely eliminated in the first turn. I agree. I could have put her on top, and this is, Pretty and Sweet is not my kind of horse, but having said that, like the switch to Luis Saez in here on a horse that's just been running against much better horses. I know she's had a lot of chances, but I think they're finally being realistic with her. They're not just dropping her out of maiden specials. They're dropping her into a race that she can win. They're not going to 75s or 50s. They're going to 35s, and I'm just hoping she's better than these, but the 5 and 7 are my main 2.
The 2, check your 6, a little bit of a shorter price, but gets back to the turf. Ran okay on a main track last time out, but that was a race where, again, check your 6, drew the inside. She wasn't compromised by all of the trip that other horses did come out of. We saw First and Brace actually come out of that race, stepping up in class for Barclay Tagg, who had a little bit of an excuse. So she was the one that was not hindered by some of the unfortunate circumstances that happened in that race.
Well, she was part of the reason it happened. I mean, originally I thought she caused it, but she actually didn't. Somebody came out into her, but I agree. No, I agree. She can win.
All right, we'll move on to the 8th race on the card, maiden special weight 7.5 furlongs on the turf, and we'll go back and take a look at Hockey School.
I'm shocked you didn't use this horse at all. When I first saw your ticket, I was thinking you and I liked the same horse a lot because I was thinking the next race or something for Hockey School.
And I'll say why, but
okay,
you
no,
obviously...
that's fine. I'm not listening. I say this out of respect.
Replay.
It's not a...
Yeah.
I don't mean it. I want to show Hockey School number 9 in here early. Okay, first of all, you're going to see Hockey School going in the first turn. It's a tough situation for the rider, Tyler Gaffalione, because he's trying to get position, and it's not separating at all. So he's sort of in the midst of getting stacked up 4 wide, and he's going to clip heels at this point. You're going to see him almost go down there. And Tyler did a great job. Really didn't badly affect him, and he got him into a decent spot after that. So I don't think that this was major trouble. I think considering the circumstance, he did a terrific job of getting into position, and he got good position as well. But he really, you'll see as we go around, he's between horses. He's like 3 wide. He's trying to angle out, and he's got that horse in red outside of him, shuts the door completely on him, forces him in. Now he gets caught behind the 4. He totally steadies behind him, and this is a horse that I believe had significant run and just was completely prevented from trying to do this. I was interested in him last time. So there's a horse half to Coffee Click, thought they needed his first race on the turf, and I don't think he got a fair chance to run in there.
He very well. He couldn't, and I agree with that. He did have some excuses going into the first turn, as we saw clipped heels, and then he got a late run at the top of the stretch. The only thing with him, what did you think about his energy once he finally got clear? Did you think that he really
He didn't keep running. No,
he didn't keep running, and that's
You're
the
correct.
only reason why I took a stand against him today. But look, he's going to probably be a good price, and he might be one to use for the multi-race sequences. You have to look at these trip horses.
Listen, one of the great things about trips is, first of all, they're great
You
discussion
can agree
points.
and
Right, they're
disagree.
great discussion points because you can all learn from each other, and also there's different ways to interpret them. I believe that he never had a chance to run, and I think it's a very tough on a horse when he's getting ready to make his run, when they shut the door on him and he loses his position like that, and just get discouraged. Why Khan? If you don't like hockey school, why Khan, who did no running whatsoever in that race?
Did absolutely no running. I agree with you.
I have to take a sip of water.
But
Dying here.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you. This is just a horse that really caught my attention in debut physically. Is a very good looking horse, and I was going into the race thinking this horse has to run a little bit better. Bill Mott does not do well with first-time starters on the turf. Everybody knows that. But they do improve with their second and third starts. They went back to the drawing board. They put the blinkers on. So maybe they've made a couple of adjustments with this horse. And I just think he has room to improve. They keep him at the maiden special weight level. This is a horse who's half to Falimbi, has some really nice pedigree. So I'm willing to give this horse one more chance.
No, all the things you say are correct. I just wish this horse did. I was looking for this horse to have done any running in there. Would have picked him second in here. I don't want Taste for Talent. I put the horse third. I know this horse can win the race, but come on, he got the perfect trip for lifetime last time.
He did. He got a perfect trip of a lifetime, but who's to say he might not get another perfect trip today? I thought this is another one who, visually, I liked how he ran, and I thought that even looking at him physically too, he just looks like a good horse. I can remember him standing, a couple horses really standing out to me when they made their debuts, and he was definitely one of them. I think he's a legitimate horse, so I stick with him once again today.
Fair enough. It was his first start. I'm using Fastnet Latina. Christophe Clement, first-time starter. The Dam won the Albany as a 2-year-old over in Europe and had some talent, and I always love these Christophe firsters.
Okay, race 9, maiden $25,000 event, 1-turn mile onto the main track, and this is kind of a tricky race because we have a couple of horses who are dropping in class, a couple horses who are kind of lightly raced that you could make excuses for. The 6 Superbird is one. He is dropping significantly in class, and I believe you have a good stat on the Nick Zioto barn.
I do have a good stat. Nick's got very good numbers with his horses dropping from maiden special to maiden claimer. High ROI, nice win percentage, and honestly, I think this horse is running against significantly better horses. Had a big wide post last time, no real chance, and I thought the other 2 races ran fine can win here. I probably should have had your horse in there third or fourth. It's probably a bit of an oversight for me in there, but I do like Superbird, and I actually considered singling him in this race.
He's just, I worry about him because he just has shown no speed.
Yeah.
He's such a plotter. Maybe the 1-turn mile will be okay. They obviously put the blinkers on him to hopefully wake him up a little bit. My only concern is that he's just has shown no speed whatsoever.
No, it's very, very fair.
So the 4 Little Chuck, first off the claim for Saffie Joseph Jr. This is a horse who, as you can see in the short comment, bumped repeatedly, but he was really bumped several times coming down the stretch. I didn't think he was given a fair chance to really show himself. Javier Castellano aboard here today. Javier rides a lot for this barn as well. He had a tricky inside post that I think also compromised him at the 1-turn mile last time out. Today, well posted. The barn does well off the claim. So I stick with him.
Here's what I don't like about him, and listen, he can win here. He ran this, it felt like Carlo put him in a crazy spot, 2 back. And he ran a really good race, all things considered. He couldn't drop him in for a quarter fast enough. It's like he really laid the bait out perfectly for somebody to claim the horse. And that kind of I didn't like, but he can win.
Looking at the 8 Giant Inca, isn't this a horse that you've liked a little bit for quite some time?
I liked it last time because I thought the cutback would help. I put the horse in the mix. I'm not sure a mile's not too far. This horse was bad last time.
He was very bad. Now, my question is, could they just go with him and try to dictate and try to maintain that early advantage and then maybe turn the tables? I mean, this is a horse who showed a legitimate amount of speed last time, stretching out to the mile and actually dueled early.
I agree. I think he's a second speed, but it's going to be tough to deal with Gasolina. I mean, Gasolina's faster.
True.
I mean, this is a horse that's sitting off of monstrous fractions.
And he does have to, that horse is posted to his outside.
Yeah, I think if the 9 wasn't in there, I would have liked the 8 more.
Well, he should be a decent price, so I do think he's one to be respected.
What I like about these races is they're open. I mean, we're
Yeah.
coming up with different ideas in here, and it's giving an idea that there are a lot of different ways to go. And
We agreed on the early half
Right.
of the card, and on the latter half of the card, it's a little bit more wide open.
Well, look at yesterday's the Rainbow Six sequence yesterday. We talked about in the show. I mean, you had some very good ideas in it. I had one decent idea that ran second, and we talked about it and said this is a very tough one to put together. We ended up being right very much on that one, but there were opportunities, and you were smart in a couple of spots, and those are the ways you can make money in those things. You don't want to have to put together 5 or 6. If you're smart once or twice, you're going to make money in these cards, and that's what I love about the betting cards down here.
Me too. There's so many different ways to go, and sometimes a big long shot will win, and you'll re-handicap the race in hindsight and say, oh, well, that horse actually kind of figured. But there's so many horses that figure, it's hard to really just put your finger on one of them. We'll take a look at the 10th race here on this 11-race program and allowance optional claiming event. 5 furlongs on the turf, and I believe we have a replay for the 2 smoke signals last time out.
Yeah, this is a horse that both you and I are betting against that I feel is going to be overbet in here. And I just thought talk about last time was the time. She got an absolutely perfect trip. And I don't like that Indian Splendor came back and lost, though she lost to Miss Matzo Ball, had a trip in this race. I think I put a stat up. Christoph's got great numbers coming off wins in turf sprints. I just feel like she's got to take another big step forward, Gabby, if she's going to beat this field.
I think there's pros and cons to her. Yes, I think she has to take another step forward. I also think that a horse like her that's beneficial. Well, okay, you can see the statistics
Just
here
pointing
right
it
now.
out, he does well in these spots, but those were horses that were under $7.
She's got the running style of a successful 5 furlong sprinter because she's fast enough that she can win when she makes the lead. She's fast enough to stay early. She doesn't necessarily need the lead. So these are always horses that you really do like at these 5 furlong distance. I do kind of respect her. I thought there were other horses that are coming out of much, much tougher races, and Catching Fireflies is one of them. She's coming out of a race with Lady Shipman.
I agree. Listen, I don't like to just dismiss efforts because she didn't run it all. Lady Shipman or not, she was bad. Her prior race was very good. She's got some back races, and I'm going to give her a pass for last time. Right or not, I'm going to give her a pass because she might just be better than these horses.
Well, not only that, I thought she was taken a little bit out of her wheelhouse because she's one that if you settle her behind horses, she's okay. If you go to the lead, she's okay as well. But she was actually shuffled back a little bit early, coming out of the gate under Luis Saez, and I do think that you can't make any mistakes at 5 furlong sprints.
Especially in that kind of field.
You definitely can't make them against Lady Shipman, or else things are going to go south very quickly. So Catching Fireflies, I agree with you. I think she's coming out of some very tough races. But as is the 4 Katie O, she's one to definitely be respected. You see some horses like Super Sax in the running lines, Coco's Wildcat. She has been beaten at a short price, though, in the past several times.
But she's consistently run some pretty fast races. You know, you're throwing in the 7 as your horse you're trying to get to step up. I'm throwing in the 9 as mine to try to step up. I'm a big fan of Ramon Preciado. I thought that horse might get a nice trip with Jose Lascano.
Okay, the 11th and final race on the card. We cap it all off with an open 6,250 claiming event, 1 turn mile onto the main track. And we have scratches of the 3 inside horses. So now the 4 Street Rage, another long shot, does draw the rail post position. But this is a race where I could have gone in multiple directions, but I did land on the 6 and the 11 in terms of 2 horses to cap off the pick 6.
Well, you've taken, theoretically, the 2 speeds in here.
Yes.
I'm not saying they're going to come blazing around the racetrack. My problem with the 11, and obviously Air Squadron can win, such a last time was the time horse. Got a very good trip and ride in there and pinned Chillin' Dillon down the rail, which may not have been the best place to be that day, and thought got all the benefit of that. Benefits from drawing outside again. I just hate horses off wins in these races. I just do.
I agree with you. I do. And Chillin' Dillon came back to, I believe, run a mediocre 3rd after like everything kind of going his way.
What's his name? Blew the field out in their capital city.
Yes, exactly. So Air Squadron, I used him in the pick 6 primarily because once again, they draw that outside post position. Amicio Jaramillo has been very good at being cognizant of kind of the flow of the race. And I just wonder if they're aggressive with this horse from the outside post and just go. And that could force the hand of the 6, Not Welcome, who I think might be a little bit more tactical. But Air Squadron has shown in the past that he's very fast. And I think that's really the best option, is to go from the outside for this horse.
Oh. I don't know. I'm not sure I agree, but I mean, why is it worse to just sit outside and not welcome? Why would
Well,
that
it could
compromise
be,
him?
but that's what
You
I'm
think
saying.
that would help not welcome?
Well, the only other horse that I would have used is a 7 valid concept, and I think he's highly compromised by the pace in here.
I agree, and his last race looks better on paper than it was. I mean, Javier got him there. He just didn't really finish that well. I'm interested in my father's image, the 9 horse in this race, who dropping significantly, hasn't been on a dry track in a while. The last on a dry track was in October of 2014. I know it's been a while. The drops are a little bit questionable, but the recent form isn't so bad. You look at the synthetic race back at Woodneye in November. I think he's just realistically putting this 6-year-old where he belongs. If somebody wants to take him for 6,000, so be it. I like the trainer, does a good job, and I just thought this was a logical alternative.
Definitely been dirtied up in the past several starts, so maybe this is a reasonable drop in
on
class.
the turf. He's not a turf horse. Sloppy track before that against better horses. Then he's on synthetic. He's on synthetic a couple times. You look at him. This is a horse that's run some good races on the dirt. Now, obviously, that was a while ago, and I don't think it's reasonable to think he's going to run an 80 figure in here. But I don't think it's unreasonable to run in the 70s, and that would make him very hard to beat.
Well, we saw For All the Marbles, Jose Seaview. That race was actually okay, considering it was an off-the-turf race, and you could argue that this horse doesn't do his best running on and off track, and he really didn't do awful in that race either. So you do make a lot of points. I kind of overlooked him in the pick 6, but that's definitely a horse you might want to pay attention to for the pick 5 and pick 6.
I hope so.
Oh, we'll see. Races 1 through 11. Once again, the pick 6 does start in race 6 today. $1.7 million carryover. And we do have a carryover in the rolling super high 5. As you can see, a 7-horse field to kick us off. I expect those pools to get pretty high. $6,388 in that carryover. That's enough talking for us. I feel like we always end at 12:06 every day.
Well, that's why Larry shows up at 12:06. I think, if nothing else, we've trained Larry very well at this meet.
We have. We've trained him very well.
Responded well. I'm going to give him a biscuit when he shows up.
And on cue. He's right there.
He is. He's hiding back there.
He is hiding. He's hiding. But he's waiting in the wings. He'll be up here shortly with scratches and changes. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back for races 1 through 11, and best of luck on this card.
Our day begins early.